Okay, I'm Dr. OK, and today we are doing What Were You Thinking? And in What Were You Thinking, we point out something that someone did that was so dumb that it probably cost them a match. Well, today we have two from Money in the Bank that we simply cannot ignore. Now we will point out first that we also had a good one from SmackDown, Bianca, we're looking at you, and one from Raw, and Miz, we're looking at you there. But you two get a pass because MITB only comes around once a year. So for that, we will start with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So here will be our briefcase. And I think Corey Graves was trying to be a little bit tricky when he used the term carabiner, which is simply this hook that has a little spring to it so that you can easily unlock it and then remove the briefcase. So with that, let's get to the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Zoey Stark and Io Sky, what were you thinking when you were more worried about damaging your opponent than grabbing the Money in the Bank briefcase? Well, let's set the scene. First, we had Chelsea just hit an unprettier on Naomi on a horizontal ladder. At that point, Zoey noticed that no one was in the ring with her that was able to do anything about it. So she began to climb the ladder. And Zoey had just gotten to the point where she just touched the briefcase, and Io started to slide into the ring and climb the ladder herself. When Zoey finally got up high enough, she grabbed the carabiner and even started to move the spring when Io has just raced up the ladder in 2 seconds, and as soon as she gets near the top, she punches Zoey in the gut. And then she smartly clubs Zoey on top of the head, which dazes Zoey long enough for Io to start to go to the top and go for the carabiner. But Zoey is able to recover, and they fight over it for several seconds when Io is able to pry Zoey's arm off of the briefcase. But this leaves an opening for Zoey and even hits Io in the gut, dazing her for a moment, and Zoey then grabs Io, puts her in a headlock, and even reaches up to touch the briefcase, but then decide that a suplex is the best course of action instead of trying to grab the briefcase. So Zoey gets in position in the headlock, and as soon as Zoey goes for it, Io, her feet come flying off the ladder, but she's somehow able to stop it. At that point, she gets out of the headlock and slams Zoey's head into the top of the ladder. And at that point, Zoey's chance to win the match is completely gone because she has just taken too much time. Mind you that the first time that Zoey grabbed the clip, that she was able to unlock the spring within a matter of 2 seconds. And had Io not been there, she would have won just a couple of seconds later. But here, after she punches Io in the gut, she grabs her for the headlock and takes 9 whole seconds until she tries the suplex. In 9 seconds, she certainly could have kept Io down, grabbed the briefcase, and won the match. So for that, Zoey, what were you thinking? But that's not where it ends. Let's go back to Io. So now Io is in control, and instead of grabbing the briefcase, she instead starts pulling Zoey up the ladder, getting Zoey's feet to sit on the very top of the ladder. At that point, Io turns around on the ladder and very slowly grabs her head and then her waist and goes flying off the ladder, landing straight into a horizontal ladder, injuring both herself, and then Io falls to the floor, rolling into this incredibly difficult and painful position that we can only hope to try to replicate somewhat, but I think we might be tearing all of our quad muscles doing so. So, Io, you had 13 seconds from the moment that you slammed Zoey's head into the top of the ladder and then had the power to pull her up to the top of the ladder and then turn yourself and get her into a position to do a perfect Michinoku driver onto this ladder. 13 seconds. You could have easily unclipped that briefcase in much less time than 13 seconds. So, Io Sky, what were you thinking? Well, that was pretty crazy and a little painful here. But our main event for What Were You Thinking has to be the end of the Rollins versus Priest match. So let's set the scene. Well, Damian Priest had just boxed Seth Rollins' ears, but he recovered from it and jumped onto the top rope where he was able to superplex Priest. Then he was able to roll through and set up for a Falcon Arrow, but at that point, Priest blocked it, and then Priest was even able to get Rollins up for a suplex, but Rollins somehow countered that, turned Priest around, and then delivered the Falcon Arrow that got Priest down. He grabbed Priest's left leg and grabbed his shirt, and at that point, the ref jumped down and went 1, 2, and then swept his right arm away. But Damian Priest moved about the same amount as that there pillow did and did not move at all. There was no 3 count for some reason. That was as clear of a miss as there could possibly ever be, and in this case, it cost Seth Rollins the World Heavyweight Championship because just seconds later, Drew McIntyre's music hit. He came out, he cashed in the Money in the Bank, turning the match into a triple threat, and from there, well, as you know, McIntyre got punked yet again, but Priest was the one that was able to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. So, Rod Zapata, our WWE referee, what were you thinking? Well, I think my back, tailbone, and quads are going to need a week to recover after that. But those were 2 pretty clear what were you thinkings from Money in the Bank. With that said, I'm Dr. OK, and this has been the OK Not OK podcast.